What's going on, everyone? So, the Lakers obviously need a center. That is something that has been heavily rumored. Christian Wood, although Jovan Buha, he was on Lakers Nation's podcast and talked about how he feels. Again, he didn't say Christian Wood told him or anything like that, but he said he feels like Christian Wood may potentially be leaning towards Miami if they were to get Damian Lillard. It just comes down to if they get Nurkic or not. Time will tell. We'll see how it goes. But even if the Lakers don't get a Christian Wood, there's a Bismack Biyombo, there's a Myers Leonard. They could always go the veteran route, maybe go get somebody like a DeMarcus Cousins, a Dwight Howard. I'm still of the camp of like a Hassan Whiteside. I wouldn't mind that at all. I think that he's a guy that if he buys in, can be a legit impact type player, although he didn't play last year. So does it take time for him to kind of get his legs under him? Possibly. That's why you have an 82-game season. But regardless, again, Christian Wood gives you the most upside, most potential, gives you another 17-7 guy. If it works, good luck beating the Lakers. But there is the concern of like, hey, if he starts causing mayhem and recklessness in the locker room, his character issues really start to pop up, what do the Lakers do? In my opinion, you just waive him, right? It's not a big deal. You pay him his $2 million or whatever, and you let him be gone. I don't think it's that end of the world, but regardless, the Lakers would need another center. And there is always the potential of going and maybe signing Biz and Christian Wood, right? Or signing a Myers Leonard and a Christian Wood, because the Lakers do have 2 open roster spots. That doesn't mean that they'll use the 50, but they can, right? They're more than capable of using both spots and maybe even signing somebody now, right? Maybe they do sign a Myers Leonard in the coming weeks if Christian Wood's time is taking a little too long. And it's like, well, we could always sign Christian Wood with number 15. Let's lock up our center now. I also think come training camp time, the Lakers invite several centers to come and like work out and just see, is there anybody that we want to pick up? What does the buyout market look like, right? As teams start waiving guys during training camp that aren't going to make the roster, is there a center that ends up getting waived? JaVale McGee, somebody like that, where it's like, oh, let's pick this guy up. Perfect. There's the center we've been looking for. There are definitely options. But there is also the possibility that the Lakers end up waiting too long and everybody gets snatched up and they're waiting around for Christian Wood, and then Christian Wood spurns them and goes to the Miami Heat. Happened with Kawhi Leonard, right? The Lakers were waiting around for Kawhi. They passed up on several free agents, and ultimately he ends up going to the Clippers. And the Lakers were able to salvage that season, but still, there were several guys that the Lakers could have gotten long term that really would have made a lot of sense, but they thought they were getting Kawhi Leonard. Same thing could be in this scenario. So what do the Lakers do if they miss out on everybody, right? Like, what's the next best course of option, right? Well, it's where I think Tristan Thompson wouldn't be a bad idea. And look, I've seen people throw out the idea, and I've even touched on it. We've talked about it, through comments and stuff like that, of, maybe Tristan Thompson being that 15th roster spot, right? Like, let's say the Lakers do land Christian Wood. It wouldn't hurt to have another big man that could just be there just to kind of help, just be a voice in the locker room. That's why I kind of want a veteran guy, period. Right? That's why I kind of lean towards, not really a Dwight Howard, because Dwight Howard really isn't a locker room guy, but like a DeMarcus Cousins, a guy that, will buy into the team, can be an enforcer, can be a voice in the locker room, can be a veteran guy, he's a leader. Hassan Whiteside kind of is in the same boat as a Dwight Howard, but I like the idea of kind of that Jared Dudley role, where it's like, he could play on any given night, he could play on any given moment, he could really have an impact if he's in the game, he's not going to do too much that's going to hurt you. But he's a guy that understands what the deal is. Hey, coach, you need me to play 30 minutes tonight? No problem, I got you. Coach, you need me to play 10 minutes tonight? No problem, I got you. Coach, you don't want me to play at all tonight? No problem, I got you. Whatever is asked of him, Tristan Thompson is going to provide, and he's going to be okay with it. He has the relationship with LeBron James. He's also a guy that actually looked really good in the minutes that he played for the Lakers. He was solid. He's only 32 years old compared to like some of these other guys that are, even Dwight Howard's like 36, something like that, right? So he's still young enough to where he can have an impact. Problem is he's undersized, right? He's only 6'9", which is a bit of an issue, right? Because you want a more sizable type center, right? You want a guy that has like true size, but he does have a 7'1" wingspan, which has always helped him as far as defense and rebounding and stuff like that. So he's not like, 6'9" with like a 6'10" wingspan or anything like that. He's got a good long wingspan, which can help. He's got a lower center of gravity. He has no problem baiting. He even did a solid job against Jokic, right? Like, so he is a guy that could just be another able body that you could throw at a Jokic or Embiid or whomever. He's a guy that could play on any given night. He's a guy that's not going to demand the ball or ask for too much or anything like that. He's going to play whatever role is asked of him. And you need those kind of guys. You do. But it's kind of that last resort, right? Like, I think more likely than not, the Lakers, if they land Christian Wood, they sign Christian Wood, and then they kind of leave that 15th spot open for the buyout market, or, if they end up doing some type of 2-for-1 trade or whatever, right? And then they worst case scenario, they fill in that spot come going into the NBA playoffs, right? And maybe then they bring Tristan Thompson back, right? Just kind of like they did this past season. So he is kind of like the push button in case of emergency type player. But I don't think he would be that bad of an option, right? I really don't. I don't think he's a guy that would hurt the Lakers in any way. Again, I personally want a true center, because especially even if you land Christian Wood, right? Because you could land Christian Wood and you could still go sign Tristan Thompson, and that would be totally fine, right? That's not going to be an issue at all whatsoever. But then it's like, okay, outside of Anthony Davis and outside of Jackson Hayes, you're tiny at the center position, right? You got a 6'9" center and Tristan Thompson, and then you got a 6'10" really power forward in Christian Wood. And yes, both guys could absolutely play. And look, if you're playing, say, you're playing Denver, right? Denver likes to run Aaron Gordon at the 5 when Jokic is out. It's what we saw all last season, right? And especially in the playoffs. So if Aaron Gordon's at the 5, you could easily play Tristan Thompson there. Or you could play Christian Wood there. If you're playing the Warriors, right? You could put Tristan Thompson against Kevon Looney or Draymond Green, right? Certain matchups, you could absolutely get away with it. And that is something you could look at. And then you could always default to like a Colin Castleton if you needed to, right? Keep him on a 2-way. And so let's say you don't get Christian Wood. You don't land Christian Wood. All the other centers, the center well dries up. And it's like, okay, well, let's just bring in Tristan Thompson. So at least we have a veteran guy. At least we have a available body. We have somebody that could play on any given night. You could start, you could come off the bench. Anthony Davis is going to miss, 20 to 30 games. And then you have Colin Castleton on a 2-way, who is a true center, has good size, and I think could fill in spots for 10 minutes a game. Is that something you could do? And then come the playoff time, maybe you sign Colin Castleton, or maybe you sign, I guess if you don't, the buyout market would probably be the best course of action, right? At that point, does Chicago implode and they, waive an Andre Drummond, or does JaVale McGee not get waived but finally does, right? Because you got to keep in mind too, there are other teams that need it. I mean, the Warriors. Anybody that gets bought out that's a center, the Warriors are probably going to go after. They're probably going to try to acquire. So that's something else, too, you got to keep in mind. Like, let's say the well dries up for the center position and JaVale McGee gets bought out. Yeah, the Lakers, I absolutely believe, would go after him, but so will teams like the Warriors, right? So it gets a little tricky in that regard. So I've talked about how Colin Castleton could, like, if he's your last option, that I don't think that that's the worst option there is. But you could kind of lean on him for like the 50 games or 52 games or whatever it is that a two-way guy can play during the regular season. And then if you can't get anybody come playoff time, then you could just sign him if you need be, right? Sign him to a 2-year deal or whatever, a 4-year deal or whatever you want to do and keep him long-term, short, especially if he's really good. Like, what if he's great? What if he's really good over the course of the season, right? Then it's like, well, yeah, let's just bring him on the roster. It's just about having able bodies, right? Because even if we do have a matchup against Denver, Anthony Davis is probably still playing center 90% of that series. And then Jackson Hayes is probably playing the other 10%. Or like, let's say AD plays 80% and Jackson Hayes plays 10%. Then you only need somebody to play another 10% over the course of that series. And if they're playing Aaron Gordon at the 5 to back up Jokic when he's not in, you could easily get away with like a Tristan Thompson. Right? Like, and like, beyond that, if you played Memphis, that could be a problem because they have like Steven Adams and, Triple J and, so that could be a bit of an issue. But like you look at some of the teams in the Western Conference and it's like, can Colin Castleton and Tristan Thompson not provide you what you need? I actually think it can. Right? Like, I actually think that that's something that is very possible. Right? As far as, like, the Lakers kind of getting that guy that can come in. Because if you play Minnesota, that could be a problem, without a doubt. Clippers, I actually think that Tristan Thompson can hold his own against Mason Plumlee. I do. The Kings, I think he could hold his own against Alex Len. I think Grizzlies would give you some trouble with Steven Adams. The Suns, you worried about Eubanks, right? Like, I think Tristan Thompson can hold his own against that. So, like, what teams do you really have to worry about if Tristan Thompson is kind of like your third center for 10 minutes a game here and there? Because, I mean, again, if you're playing the Nuggets, you could solely just run Tristan Thompson when Aaron Gordon's in the game. Or, throw him out against Jokic and see if it works. Right? I mean, he held his own in small doses. That's really all you need is just him to hold his own for small doses. Like, he's undersized without a doubt. Right? And again, I would prefer a true 7-footer. But, again, there's always the possibility of the Lakers are waiting for Christian Wood, and Christian Wood doesn't show up, and now what do the Lakers do? I think you just go to old reliable, right? I do. I think you just hit up Tristan Thompson and say, hey, buddy, let's make this happen. I don't know. Those are my thoughts, and as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Somewhere in between? Would you be all for Tristan Thompson if that's kind of your last resort? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it, so let me